Stark, and in this video I want to show property owners, especially those involved in probate or who are personal representatives or are heirs representing a property, how to not get yourself involved with the real estate bullies. So my name is Erik Stark. I own and operate a company here in Michigan called Settle Your Estate. I've been buying and selling probate properties for over 14 years in Southeast Michigan. I'm not a real estate agent. I am not an attorney, so I'm not giving any kind of legal advice. I simply just understand the process probably more than most real estate agents and probate attorneys do themselves, since I've been doing this for so long. But I wanted to bring something to light today on a transaction that I was involved in at the beginning of January 2022. And now that I've got all the facts, I wanted to explain how this seller was bullied into losing $10,000, maybe more. I'm just going based on the facts. I haven't really spoken to anybody else involved in the transaction, recently anyway. But I've pretty much got all my facts lined up. I've got everything documented. And in January 2022, my company had reached out to a family here in Roseville, Michigan, where mom and dad had recently both passed away within the last year, and the daughter was finally ready to sell the property. So we made contact with her on January 9th. We went and met with her on January 11th, which is my son's birthday, January 11th, 2022. And I proceeded to enter into the home with her and her husband there and find out the story behind what was going on with the home and, her being ready to sell. That's generally what I do. I don't just barge in and say, hey, I'm here to buy the house and not care. I place a very, very heavy value on what people are going through, what they want to accomplish during the sale, what's important, how much time they need. And in several different instances, she began to tear up and cry about the situation she was involved in. So we sat there for just around an hour, and finally I said, Michelle, we need to get down to business here. I almost forgot the reason why I came over was to talk about the sale of your property. Now that I've got all the details, what's the best way to proceed? And she's like, Erik, I just need a number. I need to know what you're going to do. And I says, well, I've got a number in my brain, and I brought a purchase agreement with me here today. What is it going to take for you to sign that purchase agreement so we can walk away both knowing that you've got a sale coming, I've got a sale coming, you can make the arrangements you need to, I can make the arrangements I need to, and we pretty much know that we both start working in a common direction to get this done. She's like, okay. So a couple months back, right after Dad had passed away, I got contacted immediately a couple days after Dad's passing by somebody claiming to want to buy the house. That's what I call a headhunter of the industry. They don't wait for probates to get published. They go directly after the obituaries, which in my opinion it's whatever. It's not a practice that I would ever do. It's nothing that I've ever done. Even waiting till the probate is publicated still is a little sensitive at times. However, the difference is I'm a probate specialist and I'm here to provide value and help people going through probate, where the other person is just a home buyer. I don't want to mention any names, but they are a realtor as well as a home buyer. So when you're a realtor, you've got a certain code of ethics that you have to abide by. And I'm pretty certain, at least from a moral perspective, and probably standing in front of a panel of authorities or your peers for that matter, they would both agree that if mom and dad just passed away, watching the obituaries and hunting them down and asking them if they want to sell is probably not a very strong moral compass, in my opinion. So we reached out to them after the publication was published and met with them, and she said, Erik, if you can give me $80,000 today and promise that you're not going to go back on your price and I'm going to get $80,000, we'll have a deal today. She proceeded to tell me the backstory about the other gentleman that approached her in September, came right over and signed a purchase agreement at a number that she absolutely loved. And after he did his inspection, he told her that there was an electrical panel that needed to be replaced and he needed $25,000 off for an electrical panel. We do those for about $2,000 with the permit included for a 100 amp electrical panel. So for somebody to ask for $25,000 off is what I call an unethical real estate bully. Okay, so she flat out told me, Erik, if you give me the $80,000, and she's like, I know I've got some closing costs I got to pay in there. If you give me the $80,000 and sign an agreement that says you will not ask for any kind of price reduction, we have a deal today. Okay, so I'm going to show you a copy of my purchase agreement for $80,000. Okay. And at the bottom here, I even go into so I did have an 8-day inspection because she said she was going to be at work and she needed a little bit more. I generally do inspections within 5 days, but she's like, I've got, work coming up and I'm driving my husband back and forth. So right here it shows additional terms and conditions. Buyer will not seek price reduction after inspection. I put it right there in the paperwork that even if I discover that the foundation is falling forward, I might walk away from the deal, but I'm not going to bother asking for a price reduction. I put it right there in paper. I was wanting to pay $75,000 for the house. I took $5,000 off my table, slid it back on her table, figure out, the balance later, and we'll call it a deal at $80,000 and I won't come back for a price reduction. So I leave the home. I let her know that I'll be back the next day to drop off a copy of the purchase agreement. I left her home, went right back to my home office, scanned it in, went to my bank, grabbed a $1,000 earnest money check, took it right over to my title company, opened up escrow, and circled right back around to her house and dropped it off on her front porch. And we were great friends. She's looking forward to it. She knows that everything's moving forward. Let me know when you need to get inside. We'll get you in for your inspection. Erik, we're looking forward to getting this thing behind us and moving forward. Thank you so much. I was a big, major blessing. She shed tears of joy because I wasn't giving her the runaround. I was transparent. I cared about their needs. I'm more than just somebody there to buy the house. I'm doing this. I'm more than just a home buyer. I'm somebody who empathizes and has sympathy and compassion toward people in this situation. So I very well seen the tears of joy that we both celebrated, as I dropped that purchase agreement off and she knew that she was getting everything she wanted on the date that she chose, which was coming in the next 30 days. So the next day I reach out to her and I say, hey, let me know, what your schedule is looking like. I don't hear nothing. Send her a text the next day. I don't hear anything. I call her midday. She sends me to voicemail. So now I send a text message and I say, Michelle, something's going on here. I'm a little concerned. You went from happy and excited to now avoiding me. She still doesn't respond. Now, in order to keep you fully involved in this, I want to show you that you've seen my purchase agreement for $80,000. You've seen that I would not do a price reduction at all whatsoever. The facts that I've been waiting for to come through were the fact that the property sold on February 7th, 2022 for $70,000, okay? So I knew when she was ghosting me that there was something funny going on. Well, as a savvy professional that's been involved in these situations more than once, I went and recorded what's called a claim of interest, which is basically a lien against the property, protecting the purchase agreement that we have in escrow. I've now got $1,000 involved. My bank charging me $8 to pull it out. I just, I'm vested in this deal, having to get, my professionals involved, my money lined up. That's what we do. We're starting to make plans to get this thing moving forward, and somebody ghosts me. So I go and record my purchase agreement right here on this date. So you can see it was actually recorded at the county. I paid $36 to have this document recorded on January 20th, 2022. Document gets recorded, okay? Finally, I send her a text message and I say, Michelle, I need to have some answers of what's going on, or I'm just going to hand everything over to my attorney. And when I do that, I lose my voice. I don't have any say-so. They take legal matters into their own hands. And now everybody's going to be forced to comply, and there's attorney bills getting involved. I would rather not do that. But if nobody's going to communicate with me honestly, like you did a couple days ago, that's the step that we're going to have to take. So the next day I get a phone call from her first thing in the morning. She didn't want to send any of this in a text. And she says the other buyer is basically forcing me to move forward with the transaction and that he is going to sue me if I do not move this thing forward. And I said, you do know you do not have to move forward with him legally and you can walk away, right? And she's like, that's not what he's telling me. He's telling me that if I don't move forward with this, everything's legally enforceable. And again, I do probates for a living, so I know how the process goes. And I say, do you really want to get out of the deal? Or do you want to get out of the deal and make more money? Or are you going to let this guy win and let evil prevail in the situation, even though I'm educating you in the process and giving you $10,000 more in the whole process? And she's like, Erik, he's telling me there's nothing I can do. He's going to sue me. He's got, there's these people swarming around my house. It's highly intimidating. And I said, do you want me to come over there? I'll shoo them all away because I've got the legal capacity to shut this thing down immediately. You just have to give me the authority to have a voice in the matter. So she's like, I just don't know what to do. And I said, do you mind if I contact the title company to explain to them what's going on? Well, the bottom line is when her dad passed away in September and this buyer contacted them, I don't want to say any names for the buyer, but I do have an obligation to let people know that there are people out there posing to be professionals. And I'm not saying anything. The action here speaks for itself, and you can audit my facts anytime you ever want to. I'm going to expose everybody I find out bullying people in my industry because I really make a living doing this. I'm not going to tolerate people coming into my industry and taking advantage of something that I've worked so hard for. So the bottom line is when he contacted her and made her sign that purchase agreement, she did not have what's called letters of authority giving her the legal right to do so. Okay? So when I met with her, she told me that the attorney had contacted her on January 8th and said, you've been given legal authority by the courts to sell the property. You can proceed with selling now. If you sign something prior to January 8th, which is when the court signed the legal authority, it's largely speaking null and void. No judge is going to hear a court case and waste the taxpayers' money with somebody who did not have a legal standing purchase agreement, okay? So I reach out to the seller. I let her know that she can get out of this anytime she wants. I contact the title company. I make them aware that there was no letters of authority at the time of the purchase agreement and that I've signed a claim of interest, okay? So title companies have a very, very large responsibility to make sure that every property that they are insuring doesn't have any liens or encumbrances against them. And I don't fully know when the last time they clicked their refresh button to make sure that the buyer of 28621 Melvin was going to be fully insured with no liens and encumbrances. But I can almost guarantee that it wasn't done again after January 20th, 2022, because if it was, there would have been something that popped up on their screen that says, oh boy, somebody has a lien against this property and somebody has to contact them to find out how to make this go away. Now again, eventually this is going to pop back up and the only person that's going to be affected by this is the end buyer, right? So what happened is the buyer that was threatening to sue her for not closing the deal essentially got this property for $70,000 and sold it to the end buyer. So if you're following along, this is the quote-unquote buyer that the seller signed the deal with, who never put up the money. This is perfectly legal what he did. It happens in every industry all the time. Wholesaling and assigning properties is not illegal. What he did to get that property assigned, in my opinion, was unethical. And until somebody can prove me wrong, which nobody seems to be wanting to put their eyes on this case at all, I've reached out to several attorneys and nobody really seems to care. The only time somebody's going to care is when this end, I even told the seller flat out what's going on and that, like, why would you take $10,000 less than you have to? She just wanted to make it go away that bad, okay? So eventually, whether it's this year, 5 years, 50 years from now, this guy's going to go to sell this property, and when he pulls up title, he's going to realize that there is a lien against the property, right? And at that time, I'll have a decision because somebody's going to probably track me down and say, hey, you've got a lien against this property, come sign off on it. And this is where I have a decision to make, whether I choose to just let go and let evil prevail, or whether I get everybody to raise their hand up and say, if everybody wants to gather on a phone call, we can talk about what happened and what you guys are going to do to make it right. I don't really care about the money aspect. I care about the unethical and, in my opinion, fraud. I would clearly say that there was fraud on many levels, 3 that I can actually point out specifically: the signing of the purchase agreement, the fact that the letters of authority were not even granted at the time the purchase agreement was filed, the fact that I could actually say, well, we'll pair that together. Signing the purchase agreement without letters of authority, that's one instance all in all. The fact that the title company was aware, because I made them aware, I sent them my claim of interest. They knew it was aware. So therefore, I don't think the updated title policy, I'm willing to bet if the buyer of the property sent me his title policy, it was applied for prior to my date of January 20th. Because if it was after that date, he would say, oh no, there's a lien on there. I'm not buying a property that has a lien on it, okay? So eventually the day is going to come back where the buyer is going to contact me and say, Erik, sign off on this thing so I can sell my property. And I'll have a decision to make to say, not so fast. I want all this brought to light. Or I'll just have to make the decision to say, I'll let it go and let evil prevail. But the bottom line of the story is, don't fall victims to the real estate bullies. And only through the process of educating yourself and dealing with somebody who's got the experience, not only the experience, but is going to put more money in your pocket in the process, you decide who you want to be in a transaction. Do you want this thing over so bad that you're just willing to take $10,000 less and be a part of an evil scheme that is rampantly running across our whole industry? Probate is one of the most abused, and it's so disgusting, the level of abuse that happens in probates. This lady was literally willing to walk away from an additional $10,000 because they were scaring her that much that they were going to sue her, and she just didn't know what to do. So you can hear the passion coming out of my voice, just how passionate I am about putting an end to this, educating people. And the sad fact of the reality is most people don't want to be educated. They want to be entertained. So most people won't even see the value in the video until it happens to you. Then you'll be searching high and low trying to figure out how to get out of it. And if you're anything like she was, you're overwhelmed by the intimidation factor of these quote-unquote professionals. You just move forward with the transaction and get this over with as quickly as possible. So what I would love to have from this point forward is I would like to hear your perspective on the matter, and if you've ever been involved in a probate situation where there's been abuse, because as the baby boomer generation continues, which is, the baby boomer is, they're expectedly, I think they're officially going to be largely deceased after the year 2060, there is the largest wealth transfer grab going on, trying to take money out of the baby boomer generation and put it into the hands of the industry people that are serving them. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm an investor. I still buy properties that have equity, but in this instance, I was paying $10,000 more than a quote-unquote competitor. And for the record to be set straight, anybody who isn't an expert at the level that I am is not a competitor. You're a swindler. I will flat out tell anybody that. I'm not defaming anybody's character. Based on the facts that I've recorded in my deal journal, because I do have a journal for every single time a transaction like this occurs, I've got all my facts. I've got them all dated. I've got copies of the conversations that I've had. I've got copies of the documents that I've signed and recorded, because this is a serious business. You don't do unethical things to take money out of people's pockets. I won't stand for it. I put myself through a very rigorous standard, a very rigorous level of compassion and empathy toward these people, and I will not tolerate people abusing my industry when I go above and beyond to make sure that I serve my people far above just being a property buyer. So sorry for the rant. I thank you for listening. I hope you got some education out of this. If you are suffering any type of bullying, dealing with some nonsense when it comes to probates or estate properties, or as a personal representative of an heir, I would love for you to bring it to my attention. And whether I buy your property or not, I've most likely got a solution for you. My name is Erik Stark. Settle Your Estate. You can reach out to me at 586-745-0187. That's my direct number. You can also email me anytime, Erik@settleyourestate.com. You can go to my website. You can contact me through social media. Settle Your Estate has a YouTube page, Instagram page, Facebook group, and we are all about educating people going through the probate process. So thank you for taking the time to listen today. I hope you got some value out of this. And more importantly, I hope to hear from you about how we can provide value to you and your family so you guys can keep more equity in your family's bank account and not get swindled by these real estate bullies.